so great to hear these two guys speak because you hear about the cyborg world, we hear about wanting to have long-term relationships with customers, and I'm going to do a bit about nothing to do with cyborgs. But I couldn't agree more with all the emphasis about what's coming, what's happening. But at the end of the day, I was sitting there listening to Martin going, yeah, but what happens if those 50% of deals we lose, if the salesperson had related to the buyer and aligned to their values, would they have bought? Because I am sold to occasionally as a buyer, and I don't buy because of the salesperson. They can have all the data in the world, but if they don't relate to me and I respect what they say, so I'm absolutely fascinated, and what my talk's going to be about is how we look at some of the challenges that we're all wrestling with today. New salespeople, I was talking to someone outside earlier, they're growing a sales team. How do I make somebody productive quickly? How do I recognize early on they're not going to make it? How do I look at existing accounts and say, I'm getting X from these existing accounts, I could get more? The wave is coming, and that is great. And what I'm doing builds upon it beautifully. And therefore, there's never going to be one panacea for all things. But if we look at the challenges that we're all facing and what we're wrestling with, and I've been in sales 37 years. I've been in France, I've been in Australia, where Purver, by the way, has a different connotation. Yeah. And I was told to perv is a very different verb out there. So I've been all around the world, and I stumbled across this product I'm going to talk to you about 12, 13 years ago. And what I want to do today is talk to you about, and it's another formula, a slightly different formula. But if I have a look at performance of any salesperson, customer-facing people, this applies to lawyers, accountants. I'm not talking B2C, I'm talking B2B. But if I look at my motivation, if I am not motivated, and management is I don't care how good a salesperson I am, I'm miserable, I'm down. Richard asked about how much energy is in the room. I want to be motivated. Who's motivated in the Brexit negotiating team at the moment? You know, you could ask that question. Maybe some people aren't. But if I'm not motivated, I don't care who I am, whether it's the company, it's management, it's the market, it's the product, whatever, I'd be hugely motivated what Martin's doing. I mean, that's really, really exciting. But motivation isn't the only thing. What about our ability? Ability for me is knowledge. Do I know our product service? Do I know InsideSales.com AI? Do I know Richard's methodology? 5-step methodology, 9 mantras. Do I know it? Do I know my competitors? All lots and lots of knowledge. But then you've got skill. Do I know how to do challenger sales? Do I know how to do Huntsman, Bosworth, Spin, Spanko? You name them, they're all out there. Taz, Miller-Hyman. This is how you open a call. And a lot of people will argue, how do you embed that stuff back in the business? So I'm motivated, I've got knowledge, I've got all the methodology in the world, and I sit in front of Martin at 8 o'clock in the morning in the middle of his emails, and I say the wrong thing. And he's going to say, look, you've got me at the right time, I've got all the data, but if I don't connect, and I don't have the right behaviors, so for us, and it's building on the other two talks, if you cannot align your behaviors with the value of someone at the other end, and I'm going to show you 3 stories today. So I'm going to try and make it very pragmatic. Whether I'm at an individual level, so Will's there at the back, he and I have had a session together, I've got a challenge in my life, I'm going to help Will, I hope, be more productive and sell at an individual level. I'm going to tell you a story not about Will, I'm going to tell you a story about someone else and the results we got. I'm going to talk about a team. You could have an existing account team, you could have a new business team, retention, I don't care what team it is, and I'll give you a story about a team and what we did with Hewlett Packard. I'm then going to talk to you about an organization. Sales transformation, whether it's new technology coming in, more competitors, commoditized, whatever you say, transformations, well, it's been with us, it used to be called change management. You know, now it's all about transformation, and it will hit people at very different levels. If I don't change at an individual level, even communicating with the kids, you know, is bad enough these days. So what I just want to do is very, very pragmatically is walk you through 3 real stories with real results. And as I say, listening to Martin, it just, for me, builds beautifully. But it's a very human experience. So, Our behaviours display values. Some of the analogies I use are when you're with your mates at the rugby or the football, or with your wife or partner, whatever it might be, or whether with the kids. The same situation can happen, but I guarantee we do behave and comment differently. I will say no more, but we do. And a lot of people, if you watch programs like The Apprentice, what I love about it is how behaviourally inept the candidates are, and how when they're in their various scenarios that they've devised, they haven't got that emotional flex to adapt their behaviour accordingly and align with buyers. Whether I'm buying 6 lobsters, a cloche, whatever it might be in Morocco, or sending cheese to the French, or whatever it might be. If we can share his or her values and align better, I think you have more chance of success. And the stories I'm going to tell you, I'll prove it. And at the end of this, I know that Alison wants to provide an offer for you to see if you want to prove it for yourselves, to see if it's possible. It isn't personality. I don't know those who've done Myers-Briggs. I'm an ENTJ, so I should have a badge saying I'm an ENTJ. That's what I am. What this is talking about is situations where you can flex and adapt and modify your behavior. So as a salesperson, as an account manager in a customer-facing situation, if I'm faced with Lee, that is very different than being faced with Richard or Alison. And if I try and sell to those 3 in the same way, I tell you what, I will not be successful. You have to adapt your behavior accordingly. And when Lee might say something, or Alison might say something, I might respond better. I need to align myself with their values, and it might be having to create this emotional flex, and it won't be the same. So I'm going to talk now about the model. It's an assessment. It's got 2 parts. First part looks at what my preferred behaviours are when I sell. And the model's based on, if you like, the cardinal points. When I sell, am I more interested in people? This is about trust. Management consultants, when they go and sell, typically sell on reputation and trust. They don't go in there and start saying, well, here's my methodology, and when I come in, I do a discovery exercise. And they don't do that stuff. Some people prefer to sell via reliability behaviours. These are our processes. We're ISO 9001 accredited, and if you come and buy from us, blah, 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 blah. We've reached all these quality standards, all these internal checks, and you watch salespeople do it all the time. Then you've got product sales. I'm going to tell you the features and benefits of my product. And a great question for these people is, how many minutes into a sales call are you talking about your product or service? At Europcar, I did a project with Europcar, 90 million turnover business. We grew it to 100 when the rest of the market fell backwards 10%. Their salespeople, on average, it was 10 minutes. And all I said was, well, what does the client want? Well, I don't know, but it's just about Europcar, and we sell cars. And now everything's so expensive. Some people sell via partnership behaviours. They're trying to understand what the business strategy is. Much more senior people tend to talk about business behaviours. And if you look at this, very often you have to offer a product and service, and when you do a small piece of work, it proves how good you are. They gain trust, and you can start growing an account. So when you complete this tool, you have a preference for one of these. So does the customer. So I tell you now, if a salesperson comes to me here, I'm up in that quadrant. They will not sell. I don't care what data they got. They won't sell to me. And in fact, I tell people time after time after time, go away and understand my business. Go away and align better with me. I'll help you, because I'm in sales, so you're always trying to help people out. And I'll just show you the evidence of how this works. So, three markets. An individual. I'm going to talk about a guy called Dave. Dave worked for an insurance company. He was under quota, about to potentially lose his job. And he went through this exercise, and these were some of the things he needed to do. It was a tough world, and the boss was really into salesman of the year, salesman of the month, salesman of the quarter, lots of competitions coming out. And these are some examples of things that happen with an individual. When Dave completed the assessment, he finished here. And as a result of the assessment, Durham Lane and ourselves will have a one-on-one feedback session with an individual. And I would talk to him about where is he with his pipeline, what were the last deals he lost, where was he? And he told me, oh, I'm 40% of quota, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it was all awful. And I'm under pressure. I'm thinking of leaving. And what happened was, as a result of this, we gave him some feedback. And this was the 15th of May, 2 days after I saw him. This is what he said to me. Behaviour, when you get inside someone, it's not in your head, it's in your heart. He started applying the principles of aligning better with his customers. He became Salesman of the Year. And this guy, who was selling on the left-hand side of that curve, who started to understand that at the end of the day, if he created flex in his approach, look for the buying cues, look for what people are saying, look for the values, great thing. You go into, anyone here have a midlife crisis and buy a Harley Davidson? You walk in to a Harley shop, and if the salesperson there tries to tell you the features of a Harley, you'll probably walk out again. You've had your crisis, you've decided to buy one, in I'm coming with my budget. You don't sit there and say, why don't you tell me about the features of the Harley and how's, you know, you don't do that. You've made up your mind to go in there. When you're selling, when I did work for Europcar, these guys said, oh, we're £29 a day and Avis at 28, we lost the deal. Can we discount? And you start talking to them and say, well, what else have Europcar got that these guys haven't got? They're all over on that side of the fence, which is about quality of our service and the price and the cars we deliver at this, that and the other. Highly competitive market. So by understanding where my preference is for behaviour, teaching people behavioural flex, and understanding where the values of customers are, you can make and help and coach. It's not just down to the behavioural piece. It's about the methodology. It's about AI. It's about all the tools. There's not one panacea. But I know that we transform Dave. And I have done it probably 100 times. So if I go back to P equals M times A, I've helped people personally with lots of feedback start performing. And to become Salesman of the Year, and he was going to lose his job, and he had a young wife and a child. And he just said to me, Phil, this is just fantastic. How do you do about a team? So here's Hewlett Packard. The red is Hewlett Packard's major global account team for the Royal Bank of Scotland. And behaviourally, they were all orientated to relationships. You knew this because they had business cards that said relationship manager. Bit like a bank. You know, a bank for me is a cracker because they say they're a relationship manager. They're trying to sell you mortgage, insurance, whatever. They're trying to sell you something, but they call it a relationship manager. And this was where the Royal Bank of Scotland were the values that they want to engage with Hewlett Packard. And you say, that's really, really well aligned. Except you looked at the data. And you turn around of the individuals in red that made up the Hewlett Packard account team. That's where they were. And Hewlett Packard sold two things. One is tin and boxes, and the other one is services to go with it. And here was Bob, the leader of the group, up at the top with his nice big card, relationship manager. And here was what the bank wanted, and here's their new business salesperson. Product reliability, as far away from people as you get. People up here, technology down there, reactive, proactive type of typical behaviours. So this guy wouldn't have had a thought of saying, look, I've been looking at your market, I've been studying things, I've been on InsideSales.com, I've looked at all this stuff, I've got some ideas, could I grab a coffee, spend some time with you? No. Perfect if they'd had that. This person had little pipeline, little chance of making, they were absolutely in that 53%. And we put that up, and this is the bank. Does it make money and does it work? I could not care less what your card, I'm not here for a chat, I'm a bank. And we had to therefore bin the business cards and help them transform and change the way these guys went about things. This was the sales team's most selected behaviours. Partnership, relationship, partnership, relationship. The bank wanted a reliability product with a bit of partnership, a bit of relationship. Completely different, complete misalignment. How many of us are out there completely misaligned with our customers? You might say a happy sheet, do you like us and everything else. When you fill in this data and you go and sit with the account and you say, I'd like to share with you, you know you filled in that second part, can I just share with you what you did? And how can we improve ourselves and how can we align better with you? What could we do? Because actually this is showing a bit of a disjoint. I had one company, when we did this, the customer said, how do we change? Huge respect, you know, for what, it wasn't us selling, it was someone else selling. In account teams, cracking problem, well, you run that account, you run that account, and you run that account. Here's your post-sales, here's your pre-sales, and you all go together. How many of us have got account teams who are underperforming? And then you complete something like this and say, well, no, crikey, no wonder we're underperforming. We're completely at odds with the values that the customer wants to engage with us. So who decided who goes with which account? What's the role of the sales director or the sales manager in this? And it just doesn't tell you the answer, but it provides valuable data to start transforming a team, thinking differently, and you can go back to your customer and engage them in the process by collecting their real data. What about an organization? Well, have a look at an organization. So this was a project with inside sales, outside sales. Fascinating, again, hearing about inside sales, outside sales. So they have people, and what these guys are doing is they're going to, if you've got the constructors, like Mace or someone building that building out there, they're all the people that are putting all the cabling in and the security cameras and all that stuff. So the old days, down the wine bar, Twickenham, Lords, Arsenal, whatever else it might have been, here's the latest products. There's someone nodding here, right? This is called an operator profile, the old-fashioned way of selling. So with these guys, they had a guy come in from the Middle East and say, I'm really concerned in the UK, everyone's eating our dinner because we go out with cabling at so much, and we used to be the world's best at this, big American company, and in we go, and everyone's taking that away from us. That's our cash cow. And the reason was, they said, because we think we're transactional jockeys and we need to become much more consultative. So we did the exercise and we ran it. Here is 16 salespeople in this organization in the UK. So the sales director said, I want us to be solution selling, consultative selling, trusted advisor. I think we need transformation. So we tested all the sales. This is inside and outside sales, by the way. So this is the ones with the 50%, Martin, that come in here. Very reactive, away from people. There's only 2 people are in this quadrant, which is the solution selling or the counselor box. That's where you'd expect the management consultants to be. Often senior managers, much more over here. So what we did in green, and I apologize, but I'll condense it in a minute, was asked each salesperson where they thought the values of their customer was. And then we got 34 customers to complete the second part and told them what were the values they wanted to look at to engage with the sales organization. And to give you a bullet, we condensed them all like this. We broke it down by account, we broke it down, so we had account teams, by individuals, and the sales director was right. We could have done it by inside sales, outside sales, all the rest of it, but there's a transformation journey that these people have to go on. The value, it's so simple. Go and talk to the customer about the values you want to engage with our organization, or my team, or me as an individual. And then teach the salespeople, the customer-facing people, flex. How can I be emotionally flexible? I was at a dinner last night, I didn't know people. You go up there, you try and find connections, you relate. If they're not people-y, go detached, you know. We all try it, that's what we're good at. And it's that human thing in accounts which help us grow. Well, in this particular case, you often at an organizational level have to get to the top. I'm going to say this, it can be contentious. The problem very often is the sales management, or it is the managing director. And it's because they're stuck, or they're looking to retire, or they see change, or they don't relate to people. It's a bit awkward if they pulled you in to do an exercise, and what comes out of it is this demotivation across the piece, because there's lack of strategy, there's lack of alignment. And you suddenly have a sales organization underperforming. It doesn't need to. So it gives you data to understand what's really going on. Now, what can I do about it? Well, here's some examples. In this case, I haven't got any comp plans. So I've got a guy sitting there, so I don't know how I'm going to get paid. I can't be bothered. We then, and I haven't done it here, I'm all right for time?
A few more minutes.
A few more minutes, okay. I'll rattle. I've got so much data this. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've always been in sales. I love it. I love people and I love situations. And having got a tool like this and look at sales transformation and what Durham Lane are trying to achieve, what Martin's trying to achieve, I just think great, because we'll never get rid of that human bit for certain account development activities. And when we have people working with us for 9 years, 10 years and say, we model other suppliers on you and you go in and we play it with our own team, it's hugely gratifying to have that sort of feedback. This insurance company, and for me, and I was laughing with Alison about creating a sales transformation calculator, is if you have a look at what we did with Pete McAndrew, who's the sales director of this particular insurance company, he said, Phil, we increased the performance of the team by over 20%. Now, if you've got a £10 million business or 5 or 90, whatever it might be, that is a lot of money. If you look at Dave Long, the individual who then became Salesman of the Year at a quota of £500,000, he was down at 200,000. I think he ended up at 600. And you multiply that out across an organization, what does that do to your bottom line? What does it, and the beauty why we want to partner with Durham Lane is when I look at the methodology, I look at that approach, I look at that journey of sales transformation, and the key word was sustainability. This just tells you where to stick Dynarod and unblock drains or whatever it might be to look at things. But we've got to make it sustainable. And when I see these results and I see ROI, and very interestingly, I've just done an exercise with sales directors and CEOs. And we're building up insights, data analysis. Alice and I are already talking about that. So people will be able to benchmark where they are or their sector is or their market is. But at the end of the day, whether you're at an individual, a team, or an organizational level, there's real ROI, real difference. And do you know what? Bringing the future to the present about what's happening in your team, really simply, you're going to save a lot of money, and it goes beautifully with the sales methodologies, all the knowledge training and everything else. So on that word, I know we have an offer for you, which I think, Alison, you want to talk about?
Thank you. Thank you so
much. And thank you very much.